13 players have hit the IL since the All-Star break, and you need replacements. That's why we've got waiver targets at every position coming up now.
It's about that time.
Stone on Sports.
How's it going, everybody? You were tuned in to Stoned on Sports Fantasy Baseball. My name is Matt. You can find me over on X at Pick His Ass Up. Got the awesome co-host Kyle here with me today, as usual, again. And it is Waiver Wire Tuesday. And before we jump into that, I know this is not baseball related, but it's something that I saw that just blew my mind. Apparently, there are sharks down in Brazil testing positive for cocaine. And I just had no frigging idea how terrifying that could be. You know, a great white out there in the ocean doing a couple lines. They're scary enough as it is.
Yeah.
And now they're all coked up.
Yeah. Full of microplastics and cocaine. Love it.
It's a good meal.
Appreciate everyone joining us tonight for waivers. Dubo, Dewan in the chat. Thanks for joining us. We're going to get right in it, and we're going to start at catcher with Patrick Bailey of the San Francisco Giants. He is currently 23% owned on Yahoo. He returned from the IL the first week of May, and he's really quietly been one of the better catchers in points leagues and one of the most underrated options in fantasy this season. And I think he deserves to be rostered in more leagues moving forward. Since June 1st, he is catcher number 14 in fantasy. He's a switch hitter. He's very good defensively, so you can count on him to play pretty much every day while batting fourth in the order. On the season, he's played in 72 games, has 11 hits, a triple, 7 dingers, 32 driven in, and 32 scored, and a couple stolen bases. He's slashing 273, 346, 416 with a 762 OPS. Pretty damn good there. Strikeout rate is above average at 20.9. Walk rate also a couple percent above average at 10.6%. And his metrics suggest that he will keep up his solid numbers at the plate, I think, rest of the season. His expected stats are all above average. He hits balls with authority for sure. Hard hit rate, average exit velocity are both above average and both improved year over year. Something funny in the chat, I bet. Or I said something funny. Who knows?
No.
So with all that hard hit, unfortunately, his barrels aren't that good. He's in the bottom third of hitters after having over a 10% rate last year. So hoping he can improve that as the season continues. But his launch angle, sweet spot percentage is tops in the league. His plate discipline is pretty damn good. He's above average in whiff and chase rates. And I'm surprised he's as disciplined as he is. He has a very, very high first pitch swing rate. Must be connected a bunch. He's just slightly above average in his fly ball rate, but where he really excels is his elite line drive rate. It's over 35%, guys. That's very good. Among all hitters with 250 plate appearances or more, he is number frickin' 1 in the majors and over 3% higher than the player that's in second. I can't remember who it is, but that is such a great thing, not only for real baseball, but fantasy as well. Line drives just turn into hits more often than ground balls and fly balls. I'd like to see a little more power from him at the plate, but it's hard to really ignore how consistent he has been in fantasy this year. He's been underrated, and he's still available in over 75% of Yahoo leagues. You need a catcher, you stream catchers, consider this guy. All right, we're headed over to first base here, unless we got anything in the chat.
No, we're good.
All righty. Why are you?
Don't worry about it.
Peering down, looking all weird. All right. Seemingly out of nowhere, this 26-year-old has become one of the Nationals' most important hitters since he was called up on July 5th. Matt, tell everyone more about Juan Yepez.
Juan Yepez. So this dude, he's 26 years old, and so that makes him a little bit of a late bloomer, which is fine and certainly not unprecedented. He spent the past 2 seasons as a quad A player with the Cardinals, and just for those of you who are unfamiliar with the term, the highest level of the minor leagues is AAA, and then obviously you've got the majors. Quad A players are guys who are too good for AAA, but not necessarily good enough to spend the whole time in the major leagues. But it's looking like he's going to get an extended look because the team did ship out Joey Meneses. Looking at his prospect grades, according to Fangraphs, his hit and game power both grade out at a 55, and he's got a 60 grade raw power. All three of those are well above average. He got the call on July 5th, and he's been the number 13 first baseman since then. Coming into play this week in 13 games, he's hitting .367 with a .436 on base and a .571 slug. That's good for a 1,008 OPS. He's got just one home run, but he does have 7 doubles. He's driven in 6, and he's stolen a base. He's shown some nice plate discipline so far as well. He's only struck out 10 times for an 18.2% rate, and that's something that he's obviously been working on. He's had just a 14.1% strikeout rate at AAA this season, and he's generally shown improvement with it the past couple of seasons, aside from his 28 games with St. Louis last year, where he was over 30%. Though his strikeout rate is lowish, his whiff rate is pretty high at almost 27%, and his swinging strike rate isn't much better at 12.5%. He can get fooled at the plate as well. His chase rate is pushing 32%, but you also need to remember that he has fewer than 400 major league plate appearances under his belt. That's nowhere near long enough for things to stabilize with him. He'll draw a walk too. He's at 11% so far in the show this year and was at 12.5% in the minors. Prior to this season, he'd really been about average with his walks, so this is a nice improvement. I really think the key, or at least a key to his hot start, has been his ability to hit fastballs and really pitch recognition overall. He had a similar number. Where in the hell did it go? Oh, yeah, sorry. He had a similar number of plate appearances last year, and the returns this year have been so much better. Last year, he hit just 129 against fastballs and had just a 215 expected batting average. This year, he's hitting 345 against them with a 298 expected batting average. Yes, there's a little bit of luck there, but the results are speaking for themselves. He's had nice quality of contact so far as well. His exit velocity is a little low at 88 miles an hour, but he's managed a very nice 10.3% barrel rate, and he's got a hard hit rate approaching 44%. He's also got a weak contact rate of just 2.6%. That's well below league average. Overall contact, though, isn't quite so good. He's got just a 74.3% contact rate, and he's under 85% in the zone. I do think he's a better hitter than that, though, and I'd expect those numbers to improve as he gets a little more comfortable. He's been a line drive hitter so far with an absolutely unsustainable, almost 36% line drive rate. It's going to come down by maybe as much as 10% in favor of fly balls, I'd imagine, just kind of given his history and his batted ball profile. And his 447 BABIP is going to come down right with it. I like him better in points leagues than Roto, given how he's racking up the extra base hits and just getting on base overall. I do think the power is going to come, but I don't necessarily know when. But as long as he's going to get the playing time he needs to get comfortable and get used to big league pitching, like I said, he's been up a little bit over the past couple of years, but, not even totaling half a season. So a nice little extended run here could do him some good, and he can do some good for your fantasy teams as well.
For sure.
This Tigers second baseman had reached base safely in 13 straight games coming into the week and is quietly putting together a really nice rookie season. How can Wenceel Perez help us?
Yeah, he's been playing really well. I think his performance, pretty much underscores, this season where he's been a moderate contributor in fantasy. But the rookie logged a 9-game hit streak just prior to the All-Star break. He's got 7 games this week with none scheduled versus left-handers that he usually, sits against and or struggles versus as well. Since July 1st, you can help Kelsey out there with that second baseman question would be great. Since July 1st, he is the number 9 second baseman and the number 22nd outfielder in fantasy. In real baseball, he just plays the outfield right now. Someday he might get back to the infield, but I don't see it this season. In 17 games since the first, he's slashing 250, 308, 433 with a 741 OPS. With 15 hits in 17 games is excellent, folks. 2 doubles, 3 home runs, 7 driven in, 12 runs scored. That's part of his value there is the runs scored, and a couple stolen bases while striking out less than 17% of the time. On the year, his strikeout rate is above average too at 19.7. His walk rate is about 1% below average though. So there's some speed and there's some pop in his bat. On the year, he has 8 stolen bases. His sprint speed on StatCast is in the 78th percentile, so pretty quick guy. He doesn't hit the ball very hard, as evidenced by a below average exit velocity and a hard hit rate, but it's how he hits the ball that makes him special. His sweet spot percentage rate is 12th in the majors among all qualified hitters. That's excellent. A hitter's sweet spot percentage is how often that player produces a batted ball event with a launch angle that's between 8 and 32 degrees. So why does the sweet spot percentage matter? Last year, across all the majors last year, balls hit in the sweet spot produced a batting average of just shy of 600 and a slugging over 1100. They're a big deal, folks. Another StatCast metric that was introduced this year is squared up rate. The simple definition is how much exit velocity did you get as a share of how much exit velocity was possible based on your swing speed and the speed of the pitch. Perez's squared up rate is in the 69th percentile. That said, squared up swing rate does not have to be, so it doesn't have to be a hard or a fast swing for you to have a good square up percentage. And that's true with Wenceel Perez there. His bat speed is pretty low at just 69.7%. That puts him in the bottom 20% of hitters. His swing and miss is pretty good. His chase rate is sitting just slightly, just a very small tick below average, but his whiff rate is excellent in the 82nd percentile. He's got above average contact, and when he does hit the ball, it's most often a line drive up the middle. You know, his ability to score runs, as highlighted by the 3 runs he scored in the game yesterday versus the Guardians, along with his stolen base, just adds, value to fantasy, another dimension there of value to fantasy rosters, particularly in categories leagues. I like him a little bit better in that with runs and stolen bases. But if you're desperate, he'd work out short term and points as well. All right. We're headed around the diamond. We're going to the hot corner. This Diamondbacks third baseman started showing signs of life before the All-Star break, and his line drive rate is the highest it's been since 2017. Matt, can Eugenio Suarez be a nice roster plug for managers needing a corner infielder?
I think so. And does dude have a mullet there? I don't know.
Yeah,
anyways,
he's got long hair. Yeah, he didn't have that when he was with the Tigers.
I remember when I had a mullet.
Yeah, sure.
So this dude has been the number 3 third baseman this month, despite striking out over 30% of the time. That's nothing new. This same guy has led the league in strikeouts 3 times total in each of the past 2 seasons. But this month he's been outstanding, hitting 304 with a 391 on base, a 643 slug. That's a 1,034 OPS. He's gone yard 5 times. He's got 4 doubles. He's driven in 17. How can you not like that? The season-long numbers don't look anywhere near as good. 214 average and on base just under 300, a slugging of 367. That's a 666 OPS, 11 home runs, 14 doubles. He has chipped in a couple triples, which is surprising. He's driven in 49. He's scored 40, and he's stolen a couple bases. I mentioned before that he strikes out a lot. This season, he's over 29.5%. That's actually down a point from last year. His whiff rate is near the bottom of the league, and his 13.4% swinging strike rate is very high. He does have a decent command of the strike zone, though. He has one of the better chase rates in the league at 25% flat, and his walk rate is over 9%. So where in the hell do the strikeouts come from then? Well, he sucks at making contact, and right now he's struggling to do it 30% of the time. He even struggles in the zone as well with an 83.6% zone contact rate. And he's really, really struggling against breaking balls, especially sweepers and sliders. He's hitting just 122 against them with a 42.5% whiff rate overall against breaking balls, but his average against those two specific pitches is below 100. In terms of the quality of contact, I've seen worse. Barrel rate's solid at 8.5%, but his exit velocity and hard hit rate are both roughly in the bottom third of the league. And like many other players of this archetype, he is a fly ball pull hitter. To his credit, he also hits a ton of line drives, so we may see his BABIP come up a few points. It's at 280 now, but that's also 20 points below his career average. Still in all, we know this dude is not going to hit for a high average. He is going to drive in some runs, and he does come around to score quite a bit. That Arizona offense has looked much better over the past couple of weeks as well, and he's been a big factor. He's throughout his career had these hot and cold streaks, and look, we're never going to see him hit 49 home runs again. That's just not who he is. But there's no reason why he can't give you, 20 home runs by the end of the season and drive in 90 and score 80. I think you're going to take that, especially with the extra base power. I think he's a little bit better in points leagues than he is in categories leagues, but I think he's a good ad regardless of format.
For sure. He could find himself on the trade list next week too, possibly. Arizona's not that horrible, but they're not like they were made a big run on the second half last year.
Yeah,
I guess, but
they overachieved.
They did for sure. Awesome stuff, man. Okay.
Are you looking for a shortstop that can get on base and gets hits in bunches? Well, we got one. What's up with Xavier Edwards?
Yeah, finding productive middle infielders can really be a challenge in fantasy. They're often some of the first guys scooped up off the wire because they're just in such high demand. He has held his own since getting recalled and has the plate discipline and well-rounded profile to succeed in points leagues as long as he's playing every day. So far he has. So he's got called back up July 2nd, started every game, and is the number 24 shortstop in fantasy. Since then, all Edwards has done since he came up is hit. In fact, he's hit safely in 14 out of 16 games in July with 7 multi-hit efforts. So we're not expecting much in the way of power from him, but he has shown the ability to make quality contact and get on base. And he's got 3 stolen bases over his last 5 games as well. I expect those steals to continue. He's got an above average sprint speed in the 70th percentile. Since this on the year, he's slashing 3.6, or since the second, he's slashing 362, 439, and slugging 414 with a strikeout rate that's excellent, just 13.6%, and a walk rate also outstanding, over 12%. So I mentioned he has no power. He's just hit 14 home runs over 6 minor league seasons. He's similar to Wenceel Perez, no power, but has that sweet spot, and squared up rates are excellent. Edwards is, who he is. He's a slap hitter who can get himself on base and utilize his speed. His hitting metrics confirm that. He doesn't hit many fly balls or line drives at all. Mostly a ground ball hitter. That said, he has a terrific eye at the plate with above average contact rates both in and out of the strike zone. Plus his chase and whiff rates are elite. If he was a qualified hitter, he would be ranked in the 80th percentile or better in that regard. So he should be able to wait for a pitch that he likes and get himself on base, getting you points in fantasy. He kind of reminds me of Luis Ariz, but with speed, in that he should have a high batting average coupled with a very healthy walk rate. So he's played mostly shortstop. He can play second. I don't think is he? Yeah, he's actually, I don't know if he was eligible for second or not.
Yep.
But he also played when he was up last year, a bunch of center field. So possibly there's some different ways for him to crack the lineup from day-to-day basis. So the matchups this week aren't favorable. Mets, Baltimore, and the Brewers. But Edwards is a good snag for the rest of the season. And, the Marlins fire sale is about to begin. So Edwards is more than likely looking at everyday at-bats moving forward.
All right, we got a question in the chat here.
Sorry, I was taking the banner off. My bad.
So who would you rather have, Carlos Santana or Ryan Mountcastle? And
Both
that
great
is
both great offenses.
They are. And for me, I think I'm going to take Ryan Mountcastle. I'm going to default to the younger player. I think he's got a little bit more power. Santana has better on base skills. So it may come down just to what league type you're in, points versus categories. And if you go by, average or on base or whatever it may be, I have more confidence in the Orioles offense to keep up what they've been doing more so than I do the Twins. I mean, the Twins are solid, but they're not the Orioles. So if I had to choose between those two, it would be Mountcastle.
Yeah, both of them haven't been so great in July. Carlos is 30th first baseman since the first. Mountcastle's even worse in the 40s. So they haven't been great this month, but they have definitely hot streaks for sure, especially in the offenses they play, and those teams can heat up at any given moment. Good question. Oh, I got to talk now. All right. So we're on to the outfield. This Braves outfielder recently returned to the team after being released by the Nationals earlier in the season. Last season, he finished with the Braves as outfielder number 41 in fantasy. That's very good. And he also hit 21 home runs. Matt, does Eddie Rosario still have something left in the tank for fantasy managers?
You damn right he does. He's been the number 50 outfielder the past couple weeks, and honestly, the line to get there isn't that great. 222 average, just a 243 on base, 417 slug. That gives him a 660 OPS. He's gone yard a couple times, chipped in a double, and driven in 3. And the season-long numbers are even worse. 188, 229, 341, 570 OPS, 9 home runs, 29 RBI. He does have 12 doubles, and he's stolen 8 bases. Look, this dude's been in the league since 2015. We know what he is. He's cheap power, and he's only playing against right-handers. His quality of contact is backing that up for the most part. He's got an exit velocity approaching 91 miles an hour and a hard hit rate over 42%. Though his barrel rate is pretty low at just 5.6%. It's partially explained by his launch angle. It's not terrible at 13.1 degrees, but we have seen a distinct downward trend here over the past couple seasons, and his weak contact rate is also pretty low at just 2.6%. Overall, nobody's going to mistake this guy for Tony Gwynn. He's making contact just a tick under 74% of the time, and his zone contact rate is barely over 82%. And for some reason, I always pictured him as a really high strikeout guy, but that's not the case. While his 23.1% strikeout rate is higher than average, it's not awful. And there is a lot of swing and miss with him, though. His whiff rate's almost 28%, and his swinging strike is an equally impressive 13.5%. He's definitely up there to get his hacks because his 35.7% chase rate is in the bottom 10% of the league. The dude swings everything. It'd be nice if he draw a walk too, right? He's got a 5.1% walk rate, and it's, it isn't a career low, but it is down 1.5 points from last season. And I think he can do a little bit better than that. Looking at his batted ball profile, we see he's a fly ball hitter that pulls the ball about 44% of the time. Surprise, surprise. 8 of his 9 home runs and 8 of his 12 doubles have been to right field. So, we see that reflected there. He does get his fair share of line drives as well, though. Because of his line drive rate and quality of contact, I'm expecting his 211 BABIP to come up quite a bit. That mark is 82 points off his career average. And once that happens, you're going to see his average rise, and you should see, a little bit more in his counting stats there as well. He is a good, cheap source of power. Atlanta needs him right now. They just lost Ozzie Albies, and that is a massive hole in the lineup to fill. Obviously, they're not going to plug his ass in at second base, but they are going to get him out there against pretty much every righty, and he's going to hit, maybe the back half of the middle third of the lineup, somewhere, between like 5 or 7, whatever it may be. Pick his ass up, plug him in, You just need to make sure you're paying attention to the schedule. If Atlanta's playing 3 lefties, it's probably not a smart move. And there's still some haze around rotations and whatnot right now. But overall, he is a really good ad.
Heck yeah, he is. For sure. Let's talk about some pitchers.
Yeah, that'll work. This Angels pitcher is continuing the trend we've seen this season of success for relievers entering the rotation. What does he bring to the table, and how can Jose Soriano help our teams out?
Well, the dual eligibility definitely helps. He's just 20% rostered on Yahoo. Since the first of the month, he's fantasy pitcher number 102. So not great. 17 appearances on the year, 15 of those starts. He's 5-7, 87 and a third innings pitch. His ERA is not horrible at 3.71, whips at 120. Strikes out guys rated about 20%. That's below league average, but that's still pretty good. Does walk over 9%. So both of those rates are in the bottom third of pitchers. Let's talk about his best trait. This is his ground ball rate. He generates ground balls over 60% of the time. He is number 2 in the league in the majors. And if you looked at his top rate, a hitter tops a ball. There's no launch angle to speak of. It's negative. It drives right into the ground. His top percentage is over 50%. I haven't seen that one high because he's the number 1 guy in the league and over 18% higher than the average in Major League Baseball. Pitchers with high ground ball rates have a tendency to allow fewer home runs. Jose Soriano is no different. His home run per 9 is under 1, and he's allowed just 8 of them on the season. He has a 5-pitch mix, including his most pitch thrown, the sinker, which, a lot of sinker pitchers have good ground ball rates. So in addition, he has a fastball with an average velocity of 98.1 miles an hour, first in the league among 115 qualified pitchers. Now, Soriano gets hit hard, okay? His average exit velocity, hard hit rate, both are nothing to write home about, but does a good job of keeping barrel balls in check with a rate under 8%. Doesn't generate much in whiffs with an overall rate of over 23%, which is below average, but he does find some success in the whiffs versus using his knuckle curve and slider with rates. Both of them have rates over 40%. It's pretty good. His chase rate this year, right at league average. And looking back at his stats last year, both whiffs and chase rates were much better last year, but in a much smaller sample size, just 40 innings pitched when he was in relief duty for the Angels last season. His contact in the zone is higher than MLB average, but it's kind of expected with the way that he pitches. However, his contact out of the zone is about 5% less than league average. If you need a start for this Sunday, he's got a nice one versus Oakland. They don't, really hit they hit a fair amount of home runs, which I think will be nullified by his elite ground ball rate. Plus the Athletics don't score a ton of runs in general. I won't go if you do go with him, you're not going to go looking for wins with him very much with the Angels. They don't score a ton of runs either, but he's not someone I'll start against any of the top offensive teams. Think the Dodgers or the Phillies or the Yankees or the Orioles, Brewers, but he can provide some decent numbers in the right matchup.
All right. We got another question here in the chat from Oops. Thoughts on Eric Fetty? Is he a must roster? This one's going to be easy. Yes. Mm-hmm. If he is available, you should be picking him up. Yeah, he is a fantastic candidate to get moved here at the deadline. There is some team control, I think, for next year as well. And this season, what he's been able to do on that team without being the dominant strikeout pitcher like Garrett Crochet is nothing short of a damn miracle. Yes, absolutely. If he's out there, grab him.
Yeah, he's been really good in July. He's got a sub-1 whip this month. ERA is under 2. He's allowed 3 earned runs in 3 starts. He's a great pickup. And yeah, he's going to be pitching for somebody else. Hopefully make it better.
Sure. And that'll be well earned. He's been solid, if unspectacular. Another guy who's been, quietly having a really good season. And that kind of plays on our next question here from Anthony. What do we think of Simeon Woods Richardson going against Philly today? That's a tough matchup, but the dude's only given up more than 3 earned runs, I think once or twice this season. He's another rookie that's just kind of flown under the radar. He is somebody I do want to play the matchups with, and I don't necessarily know that that is the best matchup for him, especially if it's in Philly. With this hot weather that we've been having, the ball is going to fly out of that park. But on the whole, yes, he's a solid asset and somebody who, I'm running out there against all but maybe the top 7 or 8 offenses, or, a game in Cincinnati, something like that.
Right. Agreed. What else we got? Oops, it's back. Okay. Who should I drop for Fetty? Imanaga? No. Scooble? No. Blanco? No. Ronaldo Lopez? Probably no.
Or Pablo. I ain't dropping him either. I'd probably drop Shane Baz for him.
Yeah.
He's going to be a little bit more consistent, and, Baz is still coming back from injury.
Oh, I didn't know if that was Pablo Lopez or Ronaldo Lopez.
I wouldn't drop either one of those guys for him. Although I do think Reynaldo Lopez, you're going to see him come back down to earth a little bit. There ain't no way in hell he's going to lead the league in ERA this year.
Good luck, Oops. If you guys haven't, consider giving us a subscription. Subscribe, please. Subscribe. We're here every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. We also do fantasy football at Stoned On Sports Fantasy Football. We just had our fantasy QB preview on Sunday. The video's there. You know what? In fact, hold on. Drop it in the chat for you guys, because football season is right around the corner. I don't know if you guys are fantasy football fans, but we are. We do both.
Oops says it was Pablo Lopez, and he's got the number 1 pitching staff.
Yes. I agree.
Pitching is so important. And I can't envision somebody else having a better rotation than that. Congratulations on that one.
Heck yeah. All right. One more guy.
Yeah.
This Marlins pitcher has been one of the best relievers in the last month. He is relief pitcher number 36 since the 24th of June, and he has not allowed an earned run since June 17th. He could find himself traded or installed as the new closer if Tanner Scott gets dealt. Matt, what's up with AJ Puck?
Quite a bit, actually, and not to be wasn't there back in the day on like the Real World or something, there was some dude named Puck? I don't know. Anyways, this ain't him. He started off in the rotation this season, and then after going 0-4 with a 9.22 ERA, the Marlins pulled the plug on his injured shit and sent him to the pen. Since returning on May 13th, he's 3-4 with a save, a 2.22 ERA, and he's backing that up with a 2.59 FIP and a 3.09 xFIP. He struck out 30, walked just 6 in 28 1/3 innings pitched. He's giving you better than a strikeout per inning, striking out almost 28% of the batters he faces. His whiff rate is a passable 26.5%. Swinging strike is an excellent 14 flat. He throws first pitch strikes over 71% of the time, and that certainly helps too. And really, when you're looking at relievers, you're looking for that strikeout upside. He's also fixed the issue with walks that he had earlier in the season. In his 4 starts, he issued 17 free passes and just 13 2/3. Since he went to the pen, he's walking less than 2 per 9, and his rate is just over 5.5%. He's also fooling hitters, getting them to chase 34% of the time. That is just a fantastic turnaround. He's doing great at the quality of contact he's allowing as well. He's got just a tiny 2.8% barrel rate and an exit velocity of just 88 miles an hour. His hard hit rate is a little bit high at 41.7, but I'll take it considering all other factors. From an overall perspective, he's allowing contact less than 75% of the time, and his zone contact is solid at 83.3. Batters have been pretty aggressive against him in the zone as well, swinging over 68% of the time. And with that context in mind, that mark looks even better. Batted ball profile shows us he allows a decent number of fly balls, and he does get pulled a bit, but his home run to fly ball rate's under 7.5%, so I'm not super concerned there. His home ballpark certainly helps out too. He also gets his fair share of ground balls, and he's keeping his line drive rate under 20%. Closer role on that team, not currently available. I just have a hard time seeing Miami holding on to Tanner Scott. That team is going nowhere fast. They're going to sell, and it seems like they're just in a perpetual state of rebuild there. Should Tanner Scott get moved, I got to believe that Puck is going to be first in line for save opportunities. And look, Scott could get moved as soon as this week. So, he's more of a stash for a moment, and I get it. This is waivers. Players are dropping, and these roster spots are at a premium. But if you're one of those fortunate people that does maybe have a spot to burn and you're looking for some saves and really nice ratios, pick him up, throw him in there, and just kind of wait. If things don't materialize, you can always drop his ass again.
Sure. That's true. Good stash for sure.
Mustache.
So we're in a new week for the listener league standings. Oh, this dang banner. We got a 3-way tie up at the top with BBC, LB, and Brandon, our pizza buddy, 10-5. This is nice stuff there. And we have our
whoop Loud Boy's ass last week too.
yeah.
See, I'm fourth in points, but I'm down there in where am I at? 8th place.
Yeah,
this is a miscarriage of justice.
I know. I'm third in points and in the last playoff spot, so I'm kind of disappointed as well. But it's a long season. Anything could happen. So Loud Boy's strategy of, I wonder if he'll hit 1,000 moves on waivers this year. I think he's over 600 now.
Well, I mean, we all got to have goals, right? Maybe he wants to see if he can roster every available player. I don't know. Oh, look at that. Oops says Wenceel just hit a 2-run bomb. Shit, yeah.
Nice. I love that cat. I like, he's just been so consistent. I can't wait to get off of this here. Not that I'm not having fun here, but I want to watch me some Tigers. They've been on a roll, 10 of 13, I think now or something. So
yeah, something like that. Well, they whipped the shit out of Cleveland, and then they just beat the tar out of the Dodgers. That was just amazing. Coming back, walk-offs and shit. If I was a Dodger fan, I'd been hating life then.
2 walk-offs, 2 days. The party lasted 2 days long. It was awesome.
It was.
Sorry to you Dodgers fans out there.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey. Stop that. All right. We're going to get out of here, folks. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so you don't miss us. We'll return on Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern for 2-star pitchers and streamers for next week. And I mentioned our fantasy football channel. Check that out. Stoned on Sports Fantasy Baseball. Next stream is Sunday the 4th at 7 p.m. We'll be having our running back fantasy preview. Should be a great show. We're also available on many podcast platforms, including Spotify, Apple, and more. All the info is available in the description below. Have a great night, everyone. Stay stoned.
See you, folks.